Good morning, everyone. Hello. Welcome, 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 everyone. We're gonna wait for some of our friends to pop into the room, let everyone get settled. You'll see some folks coming in. Oh, I see lots of emojis. Okay. So it looks like we're kind of stable at our participant list, so I think we're just gonna go ahead and get started, all right? So good morning, everyone. My name is Noble, and I am here at Henry Cowell Redwoods State Park. But today, I am not here to tell you about the redwoods. Today, I'm here to tell you about the Sandhills. Okay? Before we even get into what the Sandhills are, I want to show you really quick where I'm located. Okay? So I'm going to share my screen really quick. Okay. So I am right here in this tiny little spot. I am in Santa Cruz, San Francisco. And I am right here in Santa Cruz, up here in Felton, little green specks, all of the Santa Cruz sandhills here in this county. And these are the only Santa Cruz sandhills that exist, and the only sandhills here in California. So this is a really, really special ecosystem, okay? So now I'm gonna give you a look into the sandhills. I'm gonna take my camera off and show you around. And as you look, before I tell you what the sandhills are, I want you to just think in your head, what are your observations of the sandhills? What do you notice about the soil, about the plants that are growing here, about the terrain? What do you see? Okay, so let's do that right now. I'm just moving some of my papers here so that it doesn't bother you with the noise. All right. So just think in your head as you're looking at the sandhills. Maybe tell a friend what really cool things you can see. Think about what you notice about the landscape here and all of the plants. Okay, I'm gonna start bringing us back around. I wanna point out that right out there is the Pacific Ocean and the Monterey Bay. So we're pretty close to the Pacific Ocean. Bring us back here. And I hope that you made some really, really great observations because there are some super cool things that we can see out here. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I noticed when I was observing. And it's okay if we notice different things because there was a lot to see. One of the things I noticed was the soil here, the ground. It was tan. It wasn't brown like it was dirt. And I noticed that there were a lot of short plants. There weren't any redwoods that I saw except in the distance. And I saw that there's a lot of mountains around us, and we're kind of on top of the hill. That's just what I saw, but I know that you saw other things too. So I want to go back into what do we think a sandhills is? Sandhills, sand. What are we talking about when we mean sand? Well, we saw the soil, and that's called Zyanti soil. And that's exactly what we're talking about. That soil is sand. I got a little cup of it right here. I can show you. This soil is just sand. Sand just like you might have seen on the beach. I didn't get this from the beach. It came right from the ground out there. This sand is what characterizes this entire ecosystem and explains why the things that live here and nowhere else. So let's think about that idea. I mentioned that there were some shore plants and there weren't any redwoods. Why do we think that is? Why are there no redwoods? Why are all the plants small? Turn to your friend and tell them what you think. Why are there no redwoods here, even though we're in the redwood park? Tell them what you think. Okay, I think that there were some really great discussions going on there. And I want to bring your attention back here to the front to where I'm going to tell you about it. So all your good ideas, I want to show you this sand again. And you may have seen it while I was holding it out. But look at that. When I hold it, it just blows right away. It's pretty loose, pretty grainy. Sand is what we call permeable. Permeable means it doesn't hold water very well. Water just flows right through it. And redwood trees, they're really, really tall and really big. They need a lot of water in order to grow. Specifically, redwoods need 2,000 water bottles every day just to live. But if we have this type of sand that looks like this, well, it doesn't hold water. So there's not enough water for trees to grow here. So that's why there's no redwoods that you saw. That's why all these plants are small. These are plants that don't need a lot of water to survive, and they can go a long time without water. So that explains why this area looks like this, because there isn't a lot of water flowing through. So the plants that grow here are special to just here in Sandhills. Okay, well now let's think, because this looks like beach sand to me. And it might look like that to you if you've been to the beach. How did this sand get here on the top of this mountain? We're 805 feet above sea level. So how did it get here? I want you to tell a friend what you think. How did all this sand get here? Was it by humans? Was it blown here? What are your thoughts about how the sand is on top of the mountain? Sure, you're coming up with super great ideas. It's kind of a mystery. And if you're at home just thinking in your head, how did this happen? Okay, let's bring our attention back to the front, and I'm going to answer your question. And this might be crazy, because it was crazy to me when I heard it first. But this whole area, right here where I'm standing, used to be underwater. This whole area was an ocean. All of it. Millions of years ago, during the Miocene epoch, it was all an ocean. But then, why is the ocean over there and it's dry here? What happened to all the water? Well, it's because of something called plate tectonics. Have any of you heard of plate tectonics? Maybe. Well, if you don't, that's okay, because I'm going to tell you. So plate tectonics is the theory in science that all the places we live, all the continents and all the water sit on top of plates that move throughout the earth all the time. When they move, when they come together, or when they slide like this, it creates earthquakes and volcanoes and changes how the land looks. That's why all of our continents look this way. So millions of years ago, we were sitting here on the North American plate. It's where we live, on the continent of North America. In the Pacific plate, where the Pacific Ocean sits, it came in and it went underneath the North American plate. It subducted the North American plate, lifting all of the sand and all of that ocean up, so that all the sand ended up here at the top of the mountain, and the ocean is down there because it was lifted. And that might be a little bit confusing, so I'm going to use something else to show you. You can do this at home to show your family and tell them and explain about plate tectonics using just this, an Oreo. So let's pretend that this part of the Oreo is the North American. This right here is all the sand that's on top of the Sandhills. This is the Pacific plate. So the Pacific plate, I'm going to get a little bit closer here. It's going to come in. It's going to go underneath, lifting all of that sand up to the top. So that sits like this. See how it used to be flat, and now it's like an ocean. Or now it's like a mountain. Lift it up. That's why all the sand here is on top of the mountain. Because of that plate tectonics. Yeah, try this at home. Explain to your family how plate tectonics works. Right. Now, if this happened, which was longer than I was probably further back when you were alive too, how do we know this really happened? We didn't see it, and we can't see these plates that everyone sits on. Real. That help you figure out questions about the past. How do we learn about the past? What clues do we use? Think about in your head, what clues do you use to learn about the past? Help us. Well, I don't know about you, but one of the things that helps me is looking at items from the past. So if we were trying to figure out about human history, we would look at things like toys or clothes or books, things that people used in the past. If we're looking at natural history, trying to figure out what happened in nature in the past, we can look at things too. We can look at fossils. I'm sure all of you have heard about fossils, about dinosaur fossils and all of those cool things, and we have fossils here at the Sandhills as well. So I'm going to show you one of our fossils and try to tell your friends, what type of fossil do you think this is? What type of fossil is this? You guessed this was a shell, and you're right. This is a shell fossil. Some animal lived in this shell, and we found it here in the Sandhills. Let's take a look at another one. This one is one of my favorite ones. What does this look like to you? What type of fossil is this? Look at that. This is a sand dollar fossil. And you might have found one of these on the beach just today. There are still sand dollars around. This one came from underwater. Pretty cool. Look how big it is. Now I'm going to show you one that I think you guys will really, really enjoy. What type of fossils are these? What does that look like? It's another one that might give you a hint. These are shark teeth. These were found here in the Sandhills. All these shark teeth of all different sizes. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think sharks live here in the mountains or in the forests. Sharks live in the ocean. The only way to explain why there are shark teeth here on the top of the mountain is because this place used to be an ocean. That's how we know that this land was lifted up and used to be underwater. And that's why all the sand is here. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And you can have some time to think about that when we're done with our program and how that works. But we've talked a lot about things that happened in the past. I think it's time we talk about things in the present, things that you can see here if you come to visit us at Henry Cowell. One of the things we're going to talk about are the plants and the animals. And some of these plants and animals are really, really special. They are endemic. E-N-D-E-M-I-C. Endemic. Does anyone know what that means or have an idea? Maybe tell a friend if you think you know what it means. Endemic. What words does it sound like? Maybe not a lot of you know what this means. I didn't really know about it before I came here. But endemic means that these plants and animals live here in the Sandhills and nowhere else in the whole world. Just right here, in that little section that I showed you. So that makes these animals really, really special. And let's just talk about one already. So I'm going to describe to you one of our endemic animals that lives here in the Sandhills. I want you to think, as I'm describing it, what type of animal do you think it is? About what you imagine. Okay? So our first animal is an insect, and it's a beetle. This beetle is about this big. It has white stripes, it's tan, and has big antennae coming out that we like to call eyelashes. Imagine this animal for a second in your head. What does it look like? What do you think it sounds like? And now I'm going to show you. This is the Marmon June beetle. And if this isn't what you imagined, that's okay. It's endemic. So you might not have seen one before because it only lives here at Henry Cowell. These beetles only are nocturnal. And you probably know what nocturnal means, right? It means they only come out during the nighttime. Specifically, they only come out during June. The males will fly around in June looking for females to mate with. And the females will stay in their burrows. And once the male finds their female and they mate, the male will die. Their only purpose is to mate with females. Now these ones are dead. We found them here at Henry Cowell. And so if you come here during the summer, you may have a chance to see them flying around. And they may look like another beetle that you've seen before, but these ones only live here and nowhere else. Okay, now we're going to talk about another animal. This one's not endemic, but it is endangered. You know what endangered means? It means an animal is at risk for going extinct. It died. Not a lot of this animal left. So again, I'm going to describe it to you, and I want you to think in your head, what do you think this animal looks like? So this one is a mammal. It's a small rodent. It's tan in color, has a really long tail, and it has big hind legs that it uses to hop around the sandhills. It has really big ears and big black eyes. So think in your head, what does this animal look like? And as you're thinking, I'm going to share my screen with a picture of this animal. So think, is this the animal that you were thinking of? This is a kangaroo rat. You can see its really big hind legs, just like the legs of a kangaroo. And it uses these legs to hop around instead of just walking. And it uses its long tail for balance. I think these guys are really, really cute. But unfortunately, I can't show you a real kangaroo rat because they're nocturnal. They also only come out during the nighttime. And they like to eat the seeds of lots of the plants that live here. So I'll give you a few more minutes to look at this really cute creature that we have. Pretty cute. And you can see this in lots of areas around Santa Cruz. Okay, so I want to talk about one more animal specifically. And this one's pretty common. You can find types of this animals all over the place. And you might have even heard it as I've been going through our program today. This is our last time to imagine an animal, okay? So I want to use you to use your best brain power, your best imagining power to think about this animal. This is a bird, and it's black and white, and it has some red on the top of its head, and it lives in trees like this, ponderosa pine, and it likes to poke holes in the wood. What type of animal do we think this is? You probably have seen it before. Think, few more seconds to think. Did you guess a woodpecker? This is a woodpecker. And it, not real, just a recreation, but it's really similar to the 4 types of woodpeckers we have here in the Sandhills. We have a hairy woodpecker, a downy woodpecker, a pleated woodpecker, and an acorn woodpecker. And they all look pretty similar to this, just with different red backgrounds. And I don't see any around right now, but I can hear them. These woodpeckers are not endangered and they're not endemic, but they are very common here in the Sandhills and one of my favorite animals. I really like the acorn woodpecker because you may know this about woodpeckers, but they like to poke holes in the wood to try to take insects out. Insects like beetles or other small critters. But acorn woodpeckers poke holes in trees so they can hide their acorns in them. They're not trying to get food, they're trying to store food. So you'll see trees like this, and I'll show you in a second, that are just full of holes because the woodpeckers have hidden all their acorns in them. So let me show you. Now this tree that I'm about to show you is a ponderosa pine, and it's dead, so it's hollow inside. So you can see, oh, there's a woodpecker right now, right here at the top. And you can see the holes, and I'm going to try to be quiet so you can listen to them. Okay. So I'm going to bring us back around. Sorry about that. Okay, so as we go through the program, try to listen for those woodpeckers. They're pretty cool. Okay, so I told you about an endemic animal, an endangered animal, and a pretty common animal. And there are lots of other animals that live here in the Sandhills, like bobcats and grasshoppers and other types of birds, but we're not going to go into specifics about them right now. Now we're going to move on to some of the plants that live here in the Sandhills. And like we said before, a lot of these plants are really adapted to living without lots of water. These plants are also adapted to living with fire. Once again, we go back to the sand, the thing that characterizes this entire ecosystem. Does this sand look very wet to you? Does it have a lot of water in it? What did we call it again? Okay. Can everyone hear me? I am so sorry about that. Okay, great. One of the reasons that this ecosystem is so special is that there's not a whole lot of Wi-Fi here, so we have to be careful. But let's just jump right back into it, okay? Sorry for that interruption. We're going to be talking about the plants that are adapted to fire. And a lot of these plants have special abilities that help them. So first I want to show you the silver-leafed manzanita. And this is a branch that I have gotten to show you. And you can see that the silver-leaf manzanita is a little bit silver, a little bit gray. I'm trying to give you a better view of the color here. It's kind of fuzzy. It's got these beautiful pink flowers. And the bark of a manzanita is a dark red. Let me show you another part. Now take a look at these little seeds. These are what make the manzanita really, really special. These seeds can last for many, many years because they're waiting for fire. They need the heat from the fire to crack these shells so that water can come through. So the silverleaf manzanita actually really likes fire. And it needs fire to make more manzanita. And we want to have more manzanita around because our kangaroo rats that we mentioned earlier love to eat these little berries. So that's one of the ways that this plant is adapted to fire. Now let's look at another one. This is the sticky monkey flower. It's a pretty tall plant. And that's not actually that sticky. Very waxy leaves. And it creates these beautiful orange flowers in the springtime. They're a little bit wilted right now. This plant is really special and is adapted to fire because it actually grows in places that have been burned. It grows in areas that are charred, and it makes that ground suitable for other plants to grow there as well. So this plant is one of the first plants to come back to an area that's been burned. And it pretty much makes the dirt all nice and ready for all the other types of plants to grow again. So this plant is kind of like a superhero, making sure that the land can recover after a fire. Our third plant here is Yerba Santa. You can see Yerba Santa is wilted a little bit, but at the top here, it's nice and green. And the bottom here is a little bit black and charred. So this actually is not from fire. This black, sooty type of material is actually a fungus that lives in a lot of the Yerba Santa that's here. But it doesn't hurt the plant, it just lives on it. And most of the Yerba Santa that's here in the Sandhills looks like this. Yerba Santa is super special too, because it has a really extensive root system that's underneath the ground that we can't see, so that if this top part is burned by fire, the bottom part, the roots, will still be alive, so the Yerba Santa can regrow after fire comes through. So they're ready no matter what when a fire comes. We saw 3 different types of plants. One that really likes fire, one that helps other plants recover after fire, and one that can tolerate fire. All of these different plants, everything you see in the background, even our ponderosa pines here, are all ready in case a fire comes through. Because fires are actually supposed to come through pretty often in the Sandhills. How many of you think fires are bad? It's okay. And how many of you think fires are good? So fires can be both. And you may have had different experiences with fire. Fires can be bad. They can be very destructive. If you look at this pine cone, here's what it used to look like. Here's what it looks like after a fire. Pretty damaged. And it can destroy lots of homes and lots of things. But fire in nature is actually really, really good. And we need a fire to come through the Sandhills every so often to keep it healthy. Why do we think that is? Tell a friend, why do you think we need fire? Why is it healthy for the Sandhills ecosystem to have fire? What do you think? What do we think? Okay. I hope you had some good conversations, some good ideas. Let's bring our attention back to the front and talk about why fire is so important. So fire needs to come through this area so we can burn a lot of the dead stuff that just falls on the ground. Trees that fall down, dead plants, all of that stuff that builds up on the ground, that crunchy stuff that you may see when you're hiking. All that needs to be burned and gotten away so that new plants can sprout up and animals can make their homes. Without that, there would just be lots and lots of dead stuff sitting on the forest floor. And that's not very good for this ecosystem. So it keeps this nature, these sandhills, healthy. Not only that, but also keeps us safe. If we are burning some of the dead stuff in a controlled way, that means if a fire, an uncontrolled fire, comes through here, it won't be as destructive as it would be if all that stuff was left on the ground. So it keeps us safe if we control the burns and we get rid of all that stuff on the ground. Not only that, we talked about our plants that need fire to survive. If it's used in a controlled way, it can be really, really helpful in this ecosystem. All right, so we are nearing the end of the program, but not quite yet. I want to bring up something else that's really important about the Sandhills. I want to share a picture one more time that I've already showed you. But I want us to look at one specific part. So I told you at the beginning that we are here in this tiny, tiny little black county out of all California. And this yellow picture here is a picture of the county. And all of these little green spots are all the sandhills here. That's it. Those are the only sandhills in this entire state. Those few little green scattered spots. Why do we think that is? Why are there so little sandhills? Why are they all separated? Tell a friend what you think. Why doesn't everywhere have sandhills? Okay, I hope you had some good thoughts. And there could be a lot of reasons why there aren't as many sandhills around. This ecosystem already is very unique. There's not a lot of places where the ocean floor was lifted up. So there's already not a whole lot. But humans have greatly affected the sandhills. First, as you saw, all of the different sandhills are really scattered apart. That's because people have built their homes where sandhills are. They've built roads right in the middle of sandhills ecosystems, which separates them and degrades the ones, destroys the ones that people build their houses on. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is that people really like this sand. Really like it. It's very, very beautiful, and it's very valuable in making something called silicon. You may have heard of silicon before, but silicon is used in everything, including this iPad that I'm using, maybe your computer, your cell phones, lots of electronics. So people mine this sand. I can show you a mine, not in Henry Cowell, but a little further down. And it might be kind of hard to see, but this spot in between the trees, that kind of bald spot, that's a mine. And you can see there are no trees over there. It's just brown. Because people have mined for this sand to use it for whatever they want. So there's not as much sandhills area left. Why is that bad? Why is it so bad that everyone's taking this sand? It looks like there's a lot to me. Why can't we all use it? What do you think? Why is this a bad thing? Sure you had good thoughts? We talked about animals that only live here. We talked about these plants that are specifically adapted to living in this ecosystem. So if people are taking the sand, if they're building their houses in the sandhills, And that means there's nowhere for these plants and animals to live. And some of these creatures, like we mentioned, are endemic. Do you remember what endemic means? It means that they are found here and nowhere else in the whole world. So if there are no more sandhills, then a lot of these animals will be gone forever too. Which is really sad. Like animals like our kangaroo rat, like our Mount Hermon June beetle are really cool. And we want them to stay alive. So we want to protect this ecosystem. And you can help us with that. We need to spread awareness about the sandhills. Many people don't even know what it is. And I appreciate that you've come to this program today to learn about it. So when you go home today, I want you to tell 3 friends or 3 family members something really cool that you learned in this program today. Help them understand why we need to protect this area and all of the cool things and habitat that live here in the sandhills. And I want you to come visit here and see the sandhills for yourself and understand why it's so beautiful and why we work so hard to protect it. And at some point, maybe this weekend, maybe after school, maybe during school, I want you to go outside and I want you to look at the habitat that you live in. How is it similar to the sandhills? How is it different? I bet you it's going to be really, really different. I just want you to think about all of the similarities and differences in our habitat. Why habitat is so important. So now, as we're drawing pretty close to the end of our program, I will answer any of the questions that you have. If you want to put them in our Q&A section, we can set it up. So I'm not seeing the Q&A right here. Lots of reactions, lots of emojis. So if you have questions, I really do encourage you to do your own research at home. Read a book, look up online, ask your teachers, and come here to Henry Cowell if you're close, and we can answer lots of the questions that you may have. Okay? I really, really appreciate you coming to this webinar today and this program to learn about the sandhills, and I hope that you learned something new today, and I hope that you'll keep asking those questions. So we're going to close out our program today. Have a really great rest of your day. And once again, thank you for being here with me and learning with me. So I will see you later. Hopefully see you at the park. Have a good rest of your day, okay, everyone?